Hello, and welcome to this eLearn security video lesson on exploring the Windows registry using Registry Explorer. Registry Explorer is a tool that was developed by Eric Zimmerman. Looking at the evolution of Registry Explorer, you'll be amazed at the number of improvements and features Eric has incorporated. He still continuously updates and adds new features to the tool. I highly recommend you use this unique tool, especially when you are going to investigate the Windows registry. Before we start using Registry Explorer, please know that you will need the .NET version. When you go to Eric's website to download the software, you'll see the requirements for it. At the time of this recording, I'm using version 0.9.0.0. Depending on when you watch this, you may be working with a newer version, as Eric frequently revises the tool. Before we start our investigation, we need to extract the registry files. Let's start FTK Imager and add our evidence file, the forensic image. My goal is to show you the tool and how to use its features. So, let's go to the Windows folder here, and then to System32, as this is the normal location where we can find the Windows registry files. And now, let's select Config. Now we can start selecting the files we want. Let's select SAM, Security, Software, and System. Now, let's right-click and select Export Files, and then choose the destination where we'd like to export them. We receive a pop-up that tells us that we've exported 4 files that we can now analyze. Because Windows registry files are protected files, I want to make one important callout. When working on a live system and you want to extract the Windows registry files only, using the Obtain System Files button will allow you to obtain system files. You can then specify the files you want. For instance, the first option here is for the login password recovery, which won't extract a lot, only the profile and the system hive, while the second option extracts all of the registry hives and the profiles. So now let's go to the Registry Explorer tool and upload the offline files. For this video, I will be uploading these two, software and system. Depending on the size, this could take a little bit of time. Now the files are uploaded, and as you can see, whenever you click on a hive, you can see the bookmarks change based on your current selection. For example, if we select System and then go to Bookmarks, we can see that there are 24. If we select Software and go to Bookmarks, there are 15 prepared for us. This doesn't mean that this is a static list. We do have the option to manage this, as well as add keys. So, if you find a new key and you want it to be added to the tool, you can upload it to Eric's shared directory on his GitHub account, and if he finds it useful, he will merge it with the tool. Having System selected, let's go back to Bookmarks and under Common, let's select Computer Name. Sometimes you may have a lot of computers and perhaps you're investigating a computer name, or you want to know a specific computer name. Clicking on Computer Name here brings up the values, and the value we clicked on, Computer Name, is the key. And if we go to the Values area to the right, we have the value name, which is also computer name, and we also have its data, which we can see here and a bit below under Type Viewer. So, this is actually the computer name of the system we are investigating. Let's look at another example, OS information. We now see the details displayed for the operating system, which shows us things like number of processors, the OS name, and the path to where it is stored. Whenever you click on an entry line, we can see the details below. They are displayed in different formats. Here, we can see the details for the model of the processor. So, going back to Bookmarks, we have several options we can choose from. We'll go through a couple of them. Let's select File System. Immediately, we see the file system details here. For example, here is NTFS Disable Last Access Update. By default, it is set to 1, which means NTFS is disabling the last access update. Let's look at another option, Let's select Firewall Policy this time. If we expand this, we can see the policies that we have. Let's click on Domain Profile and then Logging to see the values it provides. Here we see log file path, and under Data, we can see where it's actually being logged. Now, let's go to Mounted Devices. Here, we can see the devices that have been mounted on this file system. We can see that there were two devices, the C and the D. Moving on, we also have the option to see time zone information. I will go into more detail later about this option when we use the decode tool. Now, let's select Software and then go back to Bookmarks. Here we see some useful information. For example, if we wanted to know more about the current version NT, we could select this option. And here, we can see the product name and that it is a Windows Server 2008 standard. We can also see where the system root is installed. Here we have the installation date. We'll come back to this particular point as it is a very important date. Further up, we also have the current version, which is the version of Windows. Scrolling down, we see the service pack currently installed. There are a lot of details we can find within this particular key. Let's now check out network cards. We can now see what network cards are attached to the system. There's a lot of information that's presented to us. Just note that we don't have to memorize everything. We can make bookmarks. For instance, if there's an entry that didn't have a bookmark, you can simply right-click it and select Add Bookmark. Now we can enter the following information to add it. Let's take a look at current NT version again and create a bookmark from one of the entries there. Here we have VirtualBox guest additions, and to the right, we can see its details. So, let's go ahead and right-click and select Add Bookmark. Now we can enter the details for this bookmark. We have the option to select the category. We can even type in the category. For example, I'll type in VM Stuff. Here we have the short description, VirtualBox guest additions, and below that, we can enter the long description and then save. Now if we go to the bookmarks, we now have our newly added bookmark under User Created. Let's test it. Let's go back to Software and then use our bookmark. It takes us directly there. So, as you can see, creating bookmarks is quite easy, which can be helpful during an investigation, especially if this key will be checked numerous times for a number of different hives. So, it may be useful to add it as a key. Also, if we go back to the top menu and select View and then Messages, we can see the messages that were applied when the file was uploaded to the tool. So, it tells us what was done and if there was an error. Let's go back and select Plugins, which is something that is unique to this tool, but very useful. For instance, let's say that we didn't know what Run MRU was or Recent Documents. When selecting it, we see very helpful information about the plugin, like the author details, the key path where this is found, and its version number, as it could be updated. We also have the GUID, plus the short and long description, so even if you don't know what Recent Documents is, you can check out the plugin, and from the short description, we now know that it displays recently opened documents by extension. So if we want to learn more, we can come here. Moving on, we also have the Help option in the menu. Under Options, we can say whether we want to recover deleted keys and values that you may want to carve out. You can even change the skin of the tool. Under Tools, we have a Find option, which I'll come back to later. If you want to save your work and come back to it later, you can go to File, Project, then Save. You can then name your file and select where you'd like to save it. So, let's close this and run Registry Explorer again. You do not have to load everything from scratch, just go back to File, Project, and then select Load. We can then select the file we want to load. The tool's now loading the file. This is very useful, especially when you have a couple of files and you don't want to load all of them. And if we go to Bookmarks, we have the details we looked at earlier, as well as the bookmark we created. Okay, let's go back to Tools and then Find. As an example, say we want to search for a key for shutdown. To the right, we can select if it's a key name, value data, or value slack. We can also determine the search type, simple or regular expression. There are a lot of good features we can use. Let's go ahead and click on Search. When we double-click on one, it will take us to the entry of where it found this key. Let's go ahead and click on the other entries. Control F will also bring the file window back up. Also, you can enter a list of things you want to search for. And for things that you've already searched for, you can see it in the History drop-down below. So, let's go ahead and remove this one and search for memory management. Our search entries are displayed below, and now, if we go to the History drop-down menu, we have 2 on the list. If we go to Options menu, we can even clear recent searches. Looking at the memory management here, we can see its details to the right, and here, we can see the details for the pagefile.sys, which Microsoft uses to store memory management stuff, which is related to the virtual memory. At the top, we see a very useful key, Clear Page File at Shutdown. Currently, this option is not set, as it is set to 0, but if it was, when the system shuts down, it will clear the page file. And looking back at paging files, we can see where it's located, as well as the current existing page files. As you can see, when searching for memory management, there's a lot of useful information that you can find. One very important thing to know when analyzing the Windows registry is the control set that is being run. That is, knowing which tree of keys under the registry is actually being used and updated. Again, this is extremely important. Here we see 2 control sets, Control Set 1 and Control Set 3. So, which one was the active one while the user was at his computer? To find this out, we need to go to Select, which has 4 keys, Current, Default, Failed, and Last Known. Current, which is 1, means Control Set 1 was the control set that was actually being used. Again, it's extremely important to know the control set when you investigate key entries on the registry. If we look back at the values and at Failed, we can see that there were not any failed control sets. The default is also 1. And the last known good is 3. You may have seen this when a system encountered a problem, and you had to reboot the machine. You would have been presented with an option asking if you want to revert to the last known good settings. As we see here, this one is set to number 3. Usually, you will be reverting back to number 3. Currently, in this investigation, the current control set is 1, which means that all the details are supposed to be under this key. One final thing I'd like to mention before the video concludes is the ability to export registry hives. We have a few options we can export as. Let's say that we want to export this as a PDF file. We have the option to do that. Now we can view it and see all of the hives and the details exported. This is very useful as you may want to add it to your final investigation. Let's export it as another format. Let's select the CSV, comma-separated value option, and then view the output. Here we can see everything is comma-separated, which allows us to import it into a tool to analyze later. As you can see, using Registry Explorer is extremely helpful when investigating the registry. Additionally, if you want more details, you can right-click and select Technical Details. For example, you can select any one of these to see exactly where they are located in the data structure. Under the Full Details, as Text tab, we see more details and descriptions. And to the right, we have Hive Details. Every registry, as you already know, starts with just a registry signature, regf. So, everything is already analyzed for you, and you can go to Technical Details to find more information. Another feature I'd like to show you is the ability to export a value by simply right-clicking, selecting Export, and then Value Data. You can also copy a value too. You can even specify what you want to copy: the value summary, value name, value type, and value data. You will be using Registry Explorer for your labs. And this concludes our video lesson on exploring the Windows registry using Registry Explorer. Thanks for joining us.